Miran members are very anxious after Ogyeong left them. How will they survive without the male lead? Doing asks them not to worry about uncertain rumors. And there are always people who quit because they can't work hard. Because of that they will choose new trainees, and suddenly someone comes to be a new trainee. It turns out she is Jonghyun. They are all shocked and happy to see Jonghyun. When Chorak hugs her, Juran just looks at her as if she is holding back. Her friends say that Chorak is the one who is waiting for her the most, but actually Juran is also waiting for her to come. They also tell her that Yang Seo, Chorak and Juran are no longer trainees, but are official actors now. When Doing tells Jonghyun to meet the director, Jonghyun just steals glances at Juran. Jonghyun meets Director Kong at her office. She needs time because she just got her mother's blessing. She plans to take the trainee entrance test, but the director feels that it is unnecessary. Still, Jonghyun is not sure she can sing as well as she wants, so she wants to prove itself. Jonghyun asks Yang Seo because she can't find Ogyeong. Then Yang Seo explains that Ogyeong left the group. She left Gakjuk. Hearing that, Jonghyun was shocked because she disappeared after the first performance of the combined performance. And the director was very busy trying to make up for it. Then Jonghyun went to Ogyeong's house, and the one who opened the door was Haerang's niece. She said that the prince had left, so the princess was sad. Then Haerang came out because she thought it was Ogyeong who came. Haerang didn't know where Ogyeong was, and even if she did, she wouldn't tell Jonghyun. And she also told Jonghyun to keep dreaming because she couldn't be Ogyeong. And Haerang was also wrong about one thing. She thought Ogyeong loved Jonghyun very much. But she lost interest in Jonghyun when Jonghyun lost her voice. That's how low Jonghyun meant to Ogyeong. Jonghyun felt that Haerang hadn't changed at all. For some reason Jonghyun listened to someone like her. Jonghyun's heart ached so much when hearing Ogyeong leave, as if Ogyeong has abandoned her. But she decides to remember Ogyeong with love, because she was the one who introduced Gakjuk to her. How naive Jonghyun is. She thought Miran and Ogyeong would stay the same. But Yang Seo will stay here. She won't leave no matter what. They should replace Ogyeong now. Of course, according to Jonghyun, is Yang Seo, because her voice is messed up. But Yang Seo knows that Jonghyun is more than qualified. Jonghyun is the only person that Yang Seo considers as a rival. And while they are chatting, suddenly Juran comes and sees them. Then Juran leaves and Jonghyun calls her, but she still leaves and makes Jonghyun confused. Director Kong gives the script of Queen Silla, which tells the story of Queen Seondok, for the trainees to study. They will audition for the play and all trainees are allowed to participate. The director also tells Jonghyun to audition because she has to try to get any role. But Jonghyun thought it was a big enough production, whether the troupe could give the show in the midst of the situation that Miran was in. But according to Yang Seo, the director couldn't miss a play as big as this, and they had to show that the troupe was still strong. And Chorak felt like she was the only one who would audition for Queen Seondok, but her friend thought Juran could also join. But at that time Juran just kept quiet. Doing also felt that they were pushing too hard to produce Queen Silla because it was too big. But Director Kong asked her not to worry because she had found an investor for the play. She was Homei, who used to be a trainee but had left Miran, and now she inherited a large inheritance after her husband died. And the director ate with Homei to discuss investment. But it turned out that she didn't want to invest but wanted to buy Gagubdan Miran property. The director was a bit confused because she had called and wanted to invest. But it turned out not to. She wanted to buy the property and would turn it into a hostess bar. Of course, that disappointed the director and she felt she came there by mistake. Homei knew that the director had not paid off the installments for the property, and the director was shocked how she could know about it. It turns out that Mr. Ko is Homei's business partner. He is the one who stole the safe and the ledger of Miran. And now he wants the director to sell Miran's property, and that makes she angry. Because Miran's property is like the foundation of their group and she will not sell it. When she just got home, director saw two members of the group and wanted to leave the group. At that time Jonghyun also saw them and suddenly, director fainted. She was taken to the hospital and Jonghyun told the incident before director fainted. That director saw two group members leaving Miran. The girls had dinner together, but they were disappointed because the quality of the food had decreased. It happened because Miran was in crisis, because they had to pay off a lot of debts, even their pocket money was cut. Chorak asked her friends not to complain, because director had just fainted. But among them there were those who made things hot by saying bad things. Chorak, who heard that, became angry. If they wanted to leave, then leave quietly, without having to incite the others. But they did not accept Chorak's words and a fight between them could not be avoided. Jonghyun came to break them up, and when she saw Jonghyun, Jiren just left again. Then Jonghyun chased and called Jiren. How could she not care about the fight? They should have united to find a solution, not run away. Actually, why did Jiren always avoid Jonghyun? But Jiren just apologized and didn't mean to avoid her. Jonghyun was really upset. What happened to Jiren? Did she think Jonghyun would hurt her? When Jonghyun asked weren't they friends, Jiren just kept quiet and Jonghyun thought they weren't friends.
친구도 아니야, 이 가시나야.
They couldn't practice because of lack of personnel. Then Jonghyun gave an idea to make a show. Because tomorrow is the audition day for Jonghyun, but because director is sick, so she will make the audience as judges. Then Yang Seo will also perform to be the standard for the audience's assessment. Jonghyun must attract more people than Yang Seo when Jonghyun sings. If the audience is one more than Yang Seo, then Jonghyun will join the group again. But if there is only one less person, then Jonghyun can't join. Yang Seo told Jonghyun to get ready, because she won't give up even if she loses her voice. And Jonghyun accepted Yang Seo's challenge with enthusiasm. They distributed flyers that there would be a performance by the Miran group participants. Between Yang Seo and Jonghyun were divided into two different places and times. At that time Jiren was worried because Yang Seo's audience seemed very large, and suddenly Jonghyun also came to see Yang Seo's performance. Yang Seo made a very good performance and amazed the audience. After watching for a while, Jonghyun then left and Jiren could only watch her. Jiren was very worried because during Jonghyun's performance, not many people came to watch. There were audiences who knew her as the daughter of Chai Gongsun and were curious about her greatness. Jonghyun introduced herself and was going to sing Pansori. When she started acting, her friends were restless because it seemed like Jonghyun was going to sing her mother's song, Autumn Field Blooms. The audience and also Jiren really liked Jonghyun's acting. It was time for her to sing and her voice sounded hoarse, and one of the audiences commented that her voice was not as good as her mother's. But Jonghyun continued singing and the man commented badly again. And then Jiren told him to go home and not make a fuss. Seeing Jiren, then Jonghyun sang again very well. She filled the void of her voice with her movements, even though her voice was gone, but she could still act and bring her character to life. Director Kong and her friends also came to see Jonghyun. They were all amazed, because even though she lost her voice, she could sing very well. She managed to finish one song well and Jonghyun was very happy to get applause from the audience and also from Jiren. Jonghyun's friends congratulated her because she had more audience than Yang Seo. Then she greeted Director Kong, who had just come out of the hospital. Director Kong asked how it felt to sing. Jonghyun felt so amazing even though her voice was a mess. Director Kong wasn't like that. Her hoarse voice was no longer an obstacle for her. Jonghyun didn't believe it because she had only thought about singing until finish. Now Jonghyun has become an official trainee, so director has to take full responsibility until the end. She also asked director to take care of her until she becomes an official actor and becomes the male lead in Miran. Jiren felt that Jonghyun was really great today, and Jonghyun also thanked her because she was able to finish it thanks to Jiren. Actually, there was something Jiren wanted to say to Jonghyun. About the audition back then, Jonghyun had already forgotten about it, so it doesn't matter. But Duran would say it now. If she didn't say it now, who knows when it would be. When Duran said she couldn't audition with her and couldn't rely on her, Duran wasn't serious. Jonghyun wasn't the problem, but Duran was the problem. Although they were the perfect couple, the person who made her heart beat so fast that she forgot she was acting was Jonghyun. She blamed Jonghyun for being afraid she couldn't focus with Jonghyun. She would understand if Jonghyun kept hating her for the rest of her life. Jonghyun felt that Duran was a stupid girl for not listening to her. She wouldn't blame Duran for what happened to her voice. How could she hate Duran? Because Duran was the first person who smiled at her. When she sang earlier, her heart beat fast, but when she looked at Duran, everything disappeared. As soon as she knew Duran was watching her, she had nothing to fear. Jonghyun hoped that Duran would continue to be with her. Jonghyun promised to continue doing gakjuk no matter what, so Duran had to continue to see how Jonghyun grew up. Duran tried on wedding dresses with her mother. Her future husband wanted a luxurious wedding and Duran wearing a beautiful veil. The wedding date has been set and Duran must immediately inform the group. Her mother asked Duran to get out of Mirand as soon as possible. Director Kong changes the play from The Queen's Seal to The Legend of the Twin Pagodas. Jonghyun thinks the story is sad and she feels sorry for the main actors Asadel, Delby and Asanio. Jonghyun will audition for Asadel and tells Duran to audition for Asanio. That way they will act on stage together. Jonghyun will be the prince of Miran and will need Duran to be the princess by her side. Then Duran invites Jonghyun to act out a scene from her current script. Duran wants to try the scene when the dying Asanio appears in Asadel's dream. They start acting with a hug and Duran acts seriously as if she's not acting. When Jonghyun caresses her face, Duran's eyes suddenly fill with tears and makes Jonghyun a little confused. Seeing Duran shedding tears makes Jonghyun touched and stunned. She's even more confused when she sees Duran cries and Duran feels like she's getting too into character. Jonghyun is speechless because of Duran's acting like real. Director Kong discusses the script of The Legend of the Twin Pagodas. Because they don't have much time for this production, they will only open auditions for the roles of Asadel and Asanio in 2 weeks. Chorak asks the director to speed things up again. The people who can play Asadel are Jonghyun and Yang Seo. Director Kong agrees with that and they both have to be ready in 2 weeks. And for the role of Asanio, it's between Duran and Chorak. For Chorak, she really agrees, but not with Duran. She can't audition because she has to leave the group and she's getting married. They are all shocked to hear that, especially Jonghyun. Yang Seo meets Duran, who is looking at the stars. She was shocked when she heard that Duran would be leaving tomorrow morning. It was too sudden. Duran feels that the longer she's there, the harder it will be to leave. She also didn't know she could be that cruel. Yang Seo feels that Duran won't be able to do it if she delays it. Duran thinks she can have the opportunity to act on stage because of Yang Seo. Yang Seo thanks Duran because she is the best partner she could have. Yang Seo tells Jonghyun that Duran will leave tomorrow morning and she will wait in the practice room. But Jonghyun is silent and Yang Seo leaves. Duran waits for Jonghyun in the practice room, but she didn't come. Then she puts a note in front of Jonghyun's room. When Duran gets out the gate, Jonghyun chases after her. Does Duran think she can say goodbye with just a note? Duran was happy to see Jonghyun's face before leaving. Jonghyun didn't want to see her off, but to see her directly to really forget about her. Jonghyun couldn't pray for Duran and wanted Duran to feel guilty. That was the only way for Duran not to forget Jonghyun. And Jonghyun no longer trusted Duran and didn't believe her words anymore. Duran was too much and really cruel. Jonghyun was very sad and couldn't hold back her tears anymore. At that time Duran wiped her tears and hugged her. Duran asked Jonghyun to forget her and move on with her life, and she would remember everything about Jonghyun. Duran promised to live her whole life with feeling guilty. She promised to always suffer every time she thought about Jonghyun. Then Juran said goodbye to her only prince. She let go of Jonghyun's grip and left her.